Hello and welcome to Fables of the World. Today, we journey to ancient China, to a time of emperors and magic, to tell a legendary story of family, courage, and a bond so strong it could defeat an empire. This is the tale of the 7 Chinese brothers. Long ago, in a humble village by the sea, there lived 7 brothers. To all who looked upon them, they seemed identical. They shared the same face, the same smile, and the same quiet demeanor. But in truth, each brother possessed a unique and extraordinary power that set him apart. The first brother could swallow the sea. The second had a neck of iron, unbreakable by any force. The third could stretch his legs and run to the ends of the earth. The fourth was immune to fire, while the fifth could withstand the power of a raging typhoon. The sixth brother's ears could hear a whisper from miles away, and the seventh had a voice so powerful it could shake the mountains. Their lives were simple and peaceful. They lived with their mother, their love for her and for one another as vast as the ocean they fished in. One day, the eldest brother, who could swallow the sea, used his gift to collect fish for their supper. He held back the entire ocean in his stomach, and the villagers gathered fish from the dry seabed. But a terrible thing happened. A young boy was left behind, forgotten, and the brother couldn't hold the sea back any longer. The water rushed back, and the boy was gone. The emperor, a man known for his cruelty and short temper, heard of this incident and ordered the first brother to be arrested. He was to be executed for what the emperor declared was an act of murder. On the day of the execution, the emperor's guards took the first brother to a high cliff. The emperor himself was there, seated on a throne, with all the villagers watching in fear. The sentence was death by beheading. The executioner raised his sword, and with a swift, powerful swing, brought it down. But the sword struck nothing but air. The man standing on the cliff was not the first brother at all, but the second, who had secretly taken his place. The second brother, with his iron neck, felt nothing. The sword shattered against his skin. The crowd gasped in astonishment. Enraged, the emperor demanded to know what was happening. When the second brother revealed his secret, the emperor's anger grew. He ordered the second brother to be arrested and sentenced him to a new fate. He would be tied to the ground and crushed by a giant boulder. On the second day, the executioners brought the second brother to a wide, open plain. A massive boulder, heavier than a house, was suspended from a great crane. The brother was tied beneath it, and the emperor gave the signal. The ropes were cut, and the boulder plummeted. But as it fell, the executioners looked on in shock. The man they had tied down was the third brother. He used his power to stretch his legs, reaching all the way to the emperor's feet. The boulder smashed into the ground, but he was completely unharmed. The emperor, now furious beyond reason, had the third brother seized. "We will not be outsmarted again," he bellowed. He ordered the third brother to be tied to a stake and burned alive. On the third day, the flames of a great pyre licked at the sky. The villagers, now terrified for the family, watched as the emperor's soldiers bound the brother to the stake. But as the fire roared to life, the man did not even flinch. It was the fourth brother, who was immune to fire. The flames danced around him, a beautiful and harmless display, leaving him completely untouched. The emperor was now at his wits' end. He had tried to behead, to crush, and to burn the brothers, all to no avail. He paced back and forth, desperate to find a way to end this mockery. He thought, what is more powerful than fire? The wind and the water. He ordered the fourth brother to be taken to the sea, where he would be tied to a pole and left in the path of a powerful typhoon. On the fourth day, a terrible storm began to brew. The winds howled, and the waves crashed with a fury. The emperor watched with a malicious grin as the man was lashed to the pole. But as the storm hit, he saw that the man was a different brother. This was the fifth, the brother who could withstand a raging typhoon. The winds and water ripped at his clothes, but his body remained strong and steady. Fuming, the emperor had the fifth brother taken away. He was now convinced that this family was truly a band of demons. "We will bury him," the emperor declared. "We will bury him alive, so that his screams can be heard by no one." But the emperor had forgotten about the sixth brother. On the fifth day, the soldiers threw the fifth brother into a deep pit and began to fill it with dirt. All the villagers wept, believing this was the end. Yet, from his home, the sixth brother, with his powerful ears, could hear every sound. As the dirt began to cover his brother, he used his ears to hear the sound of the earth shifting, and he knew what was happening. He took his place in the pit, and when the pit was full, he simply used his powerful hearing to guide his way to the surface, emerging from the ground, alive and well. The emperor, by this point, was a shell of a man, his pride shattered. He had run out of ideas. But one last execution attempt remained. He ordered the seventh brother to be brought before him. He would not use an executioner or a weapon. He would simply sentence the brother to a fate of eternal punishment, to be locked away in a dungeon of the forgotten. As the seventh brother stood before him, the emperor began to speak of his crimes, his voice filled with scorn. But the seventh brother's face was unreadable. When the emperor finished, the brother simply stood there, and then, slowly, he began to speak. He did not speak of his crimes or his sentence. He spoke of his love for his brothers, his love for his mother, and his love for the sea. And as he spoke, his voice grew louder, and louder, until it was not a voice at all, but a roar. A great and powerful sound that shook the very ground. The mountains trembled, the rivers changed their course, and the emperor's palace crumbled to the ground, leaving nothing but dust. The emperor, terrified, was finally defeated. The brothers, with their unwavering bond, had proven that their unity was more powerful than any weapon, more resilient than any punishment, and more enduring than any man's pride. The 7 Chinese brothers, who looked identical to everyone else, were truly a force of nature. Their story is a reminder that the strongest bonds are not always what is seen on the surface, but what is found in the deep, unbreakable connection that unites a family.